Hi everybody, I'm Skip Elsheimer and welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films and ponder on it via comments and yeah. So that last thing was some raw footage from Billy's helicopter ride, which was a Coronet film. And what's interesting is I think there's two versions of this. Like, this is the earlier version, but there's one I feel like that came out in the 70s. So the raw footage with the slates, all that stuff is kind of interesting to see. Let's see, what do we got? This is a film about, the title is clipped, but this is pre-fire planning for a liquid propane gas plant. Enjoy.
In the fire. On an alarm at this plant, engine 4 will go directly to back circle drive and connect to the hydrant there for water supply. 2.5-inch hose lines will be laid through the gate, into the yard, through the fence, to the plant area for cooling of all tanks to control pressures. These lines will be advanced around tanks, whichever way necessary, to get into position to cool, divert flames, and control the fire. All other engines will respond to the north side for operations from that area.
And so fire department training goes on and on, preparing for those emergencies which may or may not arise. May we take you back to the night this event took place. Consider conditions now as they were then.
RK Fire Department.
Upon receipt of an alarm, the facilities of the fire department are mobilized for action, sounding the siren to notify volunteers or call firemen, and notifying the outlying stations of the alarm. Apparatus from the central station is dispatched immediately to the scene of the fire. Apparatus from the outlying stations also is dispatched to the scene. Station 3 responds. Station 2 responds. Upon arrival, the fire chief uses his radio to notify headquarters of the nature of the alarm and to remind the responding engine companies of the pre-fire plan established for this type of emergency at this location. The size of the fire is plainly visible several blocks away. Hose lines are put into service from the backyard. The water streams are directed to the plant storage containers for cooling to prevent their relieving through the relief valves and torching as the vehicle tank is now doing. The flame above the truck tank at this time is about 100 feet high. Probably enough fuel to heat an average home for a winter month is being burned every minute. While hose lines are being put into service, some men are in the adjoining trailer court making certain all persons are out of the house trailers and utilizing garden hoses to cool the exposures. The original hose streams are continuing to cool the plant storage tanks, while additional streams are being directed onto the vehicle tanks to cool them to reduce the pressure so the relief valves will close. The flames coming from under the hood of the vehicle are from the melted fittings on the system that supplies LP gas fuel used by the truck motor. The first out engine company was placed in service to protect the most serious exposure, which was the trailer court. Their problems were to protect the trailers and prevent spreading of fires. Secondly, to provide hose lines to cool the vehicle tank from their position. Looking down the driveway, we note the torch is getting smaller as the tank is cooled and the pressure reduced. If less volume of water were available, the control would be effected with smaller nozzles from closer positions. The fire on the lower left is from a broken hose. The valve must be closed before that fire will stop. The next step is to direct the hose stream onto the tires, extinguish those fires, and remove that heat from the tanks. As the heat is removed, the gas pressure will reduce and the relief valve will close. This will complete the extinguishment of the secondary fires and the control of the LP gas fire, with the exception of the small quantity of gas left in the tank truck, which is being controlled by the hand lines now in service. Due to the heat, the valve on this pipe is distorted and will not close. Therefore, it is necessary to continue to burn the small amount of gas left in the truck tank. The extensive damage to the house trailers was caused when the concentrated volumes of gas which had escaped became ignited and flashed. In this instant of extreme heat, many small fires were kindled. The two most severely damaged trailers were within the cloud of gas which ignited. Automobiles parked within the flash area were damaged. This hood was raised because the cloud of gas, being heavier than air, had spread out near the ground, producing an upward force when ignited. The bedding and other materials were pulled from trailers for final extinguishment. The engine in back circle drive is connected to a 2.5-inch outlet hydrant, which provided about 1,000 gallons of water per minute at the peak of operations. This engine is now standing by, merely supplying water for the continual cooling of the storage tanks. The hose lines which were laid between the homes into the plant area. The blistered paint on this boat is evidence of the high temperature, even in the fringe areas at the time of the initial flash of the escaped gas. Moving to the trailer and truck, we see the tires which burned and burst as the extreme heat ignited other flammable materials which were exposed. 3,700 gallons of LP gas were saved in the trailer tank of its 4,000 gallons capacity. The large storage tank of the plant, which was located beside the burning vehicle, has been protected by water streams, resulting in no loss of gas from any of the plant's total 84,000 gallons capacity. The small fire continued to burn under the truck tank, safely consuming all remaining gas. Nozzles are tied in position to continue cooling, as investigation reveals the delivery hose squeezed under the trailer tire. Evidence of heat upon the tanks is shown by the char marks left by the burned ladder. A review of events confirms the value of pre-fire planning through the cooperation of plant management and the fire department. Fire departments should determine the locations of all hazardous exposures and review them with operators or owners so plans can be made to properly handle any emergency which may arise.
I like at the end that the end, and then that orchestra at the end. Plus the fact there's all this fire. It's pretty fascinating to see. I have a couple of fire training films that deal with specific types of scenarios, usually involving hazardous chemicals or super flammable liquids, and we've shown some on here. So interesting stuff. All right, so behind me, I have the Blackmagic Centels hooked up. We're gonna watch a film where I feel like I read the short story when I was in high school, and you probably all did too. So this is The Necklace. Enjoy.
She was one of those pretty and charming girls, born as if by an accident of fate into a family of clerks. With no dowry, no prospects, no way of becoming appreciated by a rich or distinguished man, she finally allowed herself to marry a petty clerk in the Ministry of Education. But she suffered ceaselessly, feeling she was born for luxury. The sight of the little Breton peasant girl who did her housework awoke in her sad regrets and wild daydreams. She dreamed of servants sleeping on deep couches, of quiet rooms hung with old silks, of graceful furniture, and priceless bric-a-brac.
When first I saw you, I felt as though I was transported to a promontory with the waves crashing miles below my feet.
She dreamed of a small, stylish, scented sitting room, just right for the 4 o'clock chat with intimate friends.
But the rude sea grew civil at her song.
With distinguished and sought-after men, whose attention all women envied and desired.
Between heaven and earth, all on.
A good stew, huh? There's nothing better.
When dining at her plain table, she would dream of elegant dinners, of shining silver and exquisite food served on precious china. Of secret smiles and whispered compliments. But in reality, she had no evening clothes, no jewels, nothing. And these were the things for which she yearned. She longed to be fascinating, envied, sought after.
I'm glad you could come.
She had a rich friend, a former schoolmate, whom she called on occasionally.
I've missed you. You're looking very well. Is that a new dress? I haven't seen it before. Yes, it is new. I just received it. It's the first to arrive of a group of things that I've had designed. I'm very excited about it.
After a time, she could no longer stand to visit her friend. She would weep for days afterwards from despair, regret, disappointment.
In Cornwall for the spring, and I'm packing up the children, and we're making this journey.
Mathilde, I have something for you.
The Minister of Education and Madame Georges Ramponneau beg Monsieur and Madame Loisel to do them the honor of attending an evening reception and ball on Monday, the 18th of January. What does this have to do with me?
Well, I thought you'd be happy. You rarely get a chance to go anywhere. This will be a wonderful affair. Dear, I went to a great deal of trouble to get that invitation. Not many clerks got one. All the best people will be there.
What do you think I have to wear?
The dress that you wear when we go to the theater. I think it's very pretty. What's wrong?
Oh, nothing. Only I don't have an evening gown.
Oh, surely it's not that important.
It's impossible for me to go. Give your invitation to someone at the office whose wife is better dressed than I.
Well, how much would a new gown cost? One that's not too fancy, that could be used for other things.
I don't know. Maybe 400 francs?
400 francs. I was hoping to get a gun for hunting.
It would last forever.
All right. I'll give you the 400 francs.
Oh, there.
Try to buy something pretty. What's wrong now? You have your beautiful new gown and you still seem unhappy.
I don't have a single jewel to wear with my gown. I'll look like a pauper. I'd rather not go.
Well, you can wear flowers. Flowers are very fashionable this season.
Oh.
For 10 francs, you can get 2 or 3 lovely roses.
There's nothing more humiliating than to look poor among rich women. I won't go.
Stupid we are. Go to your friend Madame Forestier. She has plenty of jewels. Ask her to lend you one. You know her well enough for that.
It's true. I hadn't thought of that.
Here we are, Mathilde. Just pick something out, my dear.
Have you nothing else?
Oh, yes, just keep looking. You see, I don't know what you want.
Could you lend me this?
Just that one?
Oh, yes, just this. Oh, nothing else. Oh, please.
Of course.
The great evening arrived. She was a sensation, the prettiest woman there. She danced with enthusiasm, intoxicated with pleasure, thinking of nothing in the glory of her success. They left around 4 in the morning.
Excuse us. Mademoiselle, excuse me. Have you received a letter from Marseille?
The shabbiness of her wrap clashed with the elegance of her gown. She longed to escape before being noticed by other women, so many of whom had furs.
Did you get a chance to answer it yet.
No, not yet.
Well, if there's any way that we can help you, let us know.
Yes, of course, but we have to go. Matilda's very tired. Good night. Good night.
For her, it was over.
What's wrong?
I don't have Madame Forestier's necklace.
What do you mean?
It's gone.
Necklace? Well, it's not possible. Did you have it when we left?
Yes, I felt it when we walked out.
Well, if you dropped it in the street, we'd have heard it fall. It must be in the cab.
Did you get the number?
The number?
Of the cab.
No. Did you?
No.
Well, I'll go back over our route and see if I can find it. I went to the police, and the cab office. Nothing. Then I went to the newspapers and put in an advertisement offering a reward. You must write to your friend Madame Forestier. Tell her you have broken the clasp on the necklace and are having it repaired. That will give us a little time.
At the end of a week, they'd given up all hope of finding the necklace.
It must be replaced.
That's impossible.
It must be replaced.
How?
There's the name of a jeweler inside the box. We can start with him.
I sold the box, but I did not sell the necklace. Unfortunately, I have no idea who did.
They traveled all over the city, going from jeweler to jeweler, looking for a necklace similar to the other. Finally, in a shop in the Palais Royal, they found a diamond necklace they thought looked exactly like the one they had lost.
How much?
40,000 francs.
No.
Monsieur, because of these circumstances, 37,500.
$35,000.
36. I fear that's the best I can do.
Will you hold it for 3 days?
Certainly.
And if by the end of February the necklace is returned, you will take this one back and refund 34,000 francs.
I agree to that also.
To raise the money, he borrowed 100 francs here, 60 there. He pawned his possessions. He signed notes and made ruinous deals. He did business with loan sharks until he had the entire 36,000 francs. He compromised the rest of his life. Then, terrified by the future, by the black despair he felt closing in on him, he went back to claim the new necklace.
You should have returned it to me earlier. I might have needed it.
If Madame Forestier opened the box, would she notice the substitution? Would she consider Mathilde a thief?
Thank you, Mathilde.
They changed their lodgings. They sent away their maid. She now lived the life of the poor. The frightful debt had to be paid, and she would help pay it.
How much for these?
50 sous.
50 for these carrots? I can get them
Clothed
anywhere
like a
else.
peasant woman, she haggled with the grocer, the fruit dealer, the butcher, over every last sou of her money.
40.
And in return, she was insulted by them.
Thank you.
He worked nights, balancing tradesmen's accounts, and did copying work at a miserable 5 sous a page. This on top of his regular job. And this went on for 10 long years. Until his last creditor was paid. Everything, the exorbitant rates of the loan sharks, the accumulated compound interest, every debt was now paid back. Sometimes, when she was alone, Mathilde would sit and dream of that long ago evening when she'd been so beautiful and so admired. What would have happened if she'd not lost the necklace? Who can guess? How strange and unpredictable life is. How full of change. And how small a thing can bring success or ruin. One Sunday, when Mathilde had gone for a walk in the park, she noticed a woman. It was Madame Forestier, still pretty, still charming.
Hello, Jeanne.
Madame, I don't know you. I'm sure there must be some mistake.
No, I'm Mathilde. Mathilde Loisel.
Oh, my poor Mathilde. How you have changed.
Well, I've had some difficult times since we last met. Miserable times. And all because of you.
Because of me? How is that possible?
Do you remember that diamond necklace you loaned me?
Oh, yes, very well.
Well, I lost it.
Lost it? No. You returned it.
I returned a necklace just like it. And it's taken us 10 years to pay for it. You can imagine it wasn't easy for those of us who have nothing. But it's over now. And I'm content.
You say that you purchased a diamond necklace to replace mine.
Yes. You never noticed it then. They were just alike.
Oh, my poor Mathilde. Mine were paste. Why, that necklace wasn't worth 500 francs.
Out they like rushed to the scanner when it slowed down. I was like, oh no, what happened? So how many of you read that or knew this story? I certainly knew it. We read it in high school. But Bernard Willits did several adaptations of short stories. He did a bunch of Ray Bradbury's. He did some Isaac Asimov's. Really kind of fascinating. And so these would be shown in schools. Also would be, you could check them out, or they would be shown in the library, your public library. Some of these maybe made it to television, but I doubt it. I think most of them were meant for only showing on 16 or eventually videotape. But yeah, pretty awesome nonetheless. So somebody asked about the noisiness of that. So that print is super red, and I tried to use some OBS color grading software, but what it did is it made things a little greenish and also noisy. So I'm still learning how to do that. So bear with me. What was I going to say? Student driver. All right, let's get some dancing on with light in the electromagnetic spectrum. Enjoy.
Visible light, the form of radiant energy our eyes are sensitive to, and invisible radio waves that can transmit sound and images through space are very much alike. Light waves, for instance, exist in a range of energy that we see as colors. All that makes one color different from another is a difference in energy. And this is all that makes light different from any other form of radiant energy. So the light that illuminates the inside of a microwave oven and the microwave radiation that heats the popcorn are really just different forms of the same phenomenon. Microwave radiation and visible light are only small parts of a much larger spectrum, what is called the electromagnetic spectrum. But visible light is the only part of it that our eyes are sensitive to. The electromagnetic spectrum includes many forms of radiation that we are aware of. Cosmic rays that come from some unknown source in space. Gamma rays emitted by radioactive substances. X-rays. Invisible ultraviolet rays. Visible light and invisible infrared. Radio waves that are made use of in radar and microwave ovens and in microwave relays and in radio and TV broadcasting. All these are part of the electromagnetic spectrum. And though it seems that there are many different kinds of radiation represented here, the fact is that all electromagnetic waves are fundamentally the same. They are vibrating electric and magnetic fields that exist at right angles to each other and to their direction of movement. But we can think of both fields together as a single wave that can move through empty space, needing no medium for transmission. In empty space, it moves at a constant speed, the speed of light. And all electromagnetic radiation behaves like light. It can be reflected, refracted, and absorbed. The movement of the wave from any point to the next corresponding point is called one cycle. The number of cycles the wave produces per second is called its frequency. And the distance between any two corresponding points on a cycle is the length of the wave, the wavelength. The higher the frequency, the shorter the wavelength. The lower the frequency, the longer the wavelength. Low-frequency waves, the longer waves, have less energy than high-frequency waves, the shorter ones. It's only these differences in wavelength and frequency, which are really differences in energy, that make one kind of electromagnetic wave different from any other. When electromagnetic waves are arranged in order of frequency or wavelength, they form a continuous electromagnetic spectrum without really a beginning or an end, and visible light is only a tiny part of it. We can put the variety of electromagnetic waves to work for us because of our ability to generate, transmit, and collect them. One application is the wireless transmission of sounds and images. We've done this by learning how to generate and then modify electromagnetic waves in a range of frequencies in the radio region of the spectrum. First, the sounds and images that are to be transmitted are converted to varying electric currents. These currents then change the radio wave, which is called the carrier wave, in one of two ways. Variations in the current may vary the amplitude of the carrier wave. This is called amplitude modulation, or AM radio. Or the variations in the current may cause the frequency of the wave to vary, and this is called frequency modulation, or FM. These modified carrier waves, generated at radio and TV stations by alternating electric currents, are broadcast from transmitters. Each station or broadcaster is assigned a certain frequency. A receiver tuned to that radio frequency picks up the waves and converts the amplitude or frequency variations in them to varying electric currents. These currents operate speakers that produce the sounds from the radio. In AM radio, the numbers on the dial represent thousands of cycles per second. The unit of measure is the kilohertz. The FM band covers higher frequencies. The station numbers represent megahertz, millions of cycles per second. Shortwave radio operates at higher energy, carrying its signals on waves that are shorter than AM or FM radio, and so of higher frequency. Television sound is transmitted on the FM radio band, but the pictures carrier wave has a shorter wavelength and a higher energy. Radio and TV are made possible by our ability to generate, send, and receive electromagnetic waves. When we learned how to detect and collect electromagnetic waves from natural sources, we were able to investigate events that lay far beyond our senses. For instance, the radio waves that bombard Earth from objects in space. We've only been aware of them since the 1940s, when the science of radio astronomy was born. All matter produces a wide range of electromagnetic waves in a number of ways. The most common way is through thermal processes, in which energy is released from matter. The sun is a good example. Some of the electromagnetic waves it produces are in the narrow energy band that is visible light. We're also aware of the sun's invisible radiation at both ends of the visible band. The infrared that we feel as the sun's heat, and the ultraviolet that tans the skin. Thermonuclear reactions deep in the sun also produce high-energy X-ray radiation. None reaches the Earth's surface because it is absorbed by the outermost regions of the stratosphere. But orbiting telescopes sensitive to X-ray radiation have shown us the X-ray sun. A computer has produced a false color image based on digitalized information about the sun. The shadings relate to X-ray intensity. The sun isn't the only astronomical object that's a source of invisible electromagnetic radiation. The planet Jupiter gives off various kinds of radio waves. Some are produced when electrons in its atmosphere are accelerated by its powerful magnetic field. Telescopes that collect infrared radiation found stars too cool to give off visible light. And orbiting X-ray telescopes show us that some very hot stars are great sources of invisible X-rays. Learning how to collect, separate, and identify electromagnetic waves has made it possible for us to learn many things about the bodies producing them. Not only do we use naturally produced electromagnetic waves to give us information about the universe, but we also produce intense electromagnetic waves for use as probes to gather information. In computerized axial tomography, high-energy waves are produced and then used in a special photographic technique to provide cross-sectional views of the living human body. This CAT scan operates in the X-ray region of the electromagnetic spectrum using frequencies much higher and waves much shorter than those of visible light. While the CAT scan gives us information by the way electromagnetic waves are absorbed, radar depends on how electromagnetic waves are reflected. The generation, intensification, and then reception of the echoes of waves longer than light waves is the basis of radar. Radar waves exist in the high end of the radio band. Radar waves reflect not only off solid objects, a property that makes radar an indispensable aid in air safety, but they also can be controlled to reflect off clouds to give us valuable weather information. Or with a shift in frequency and energy, radar waves can be made to penetrate clouds, as they did from the orbiting satellites that helped us look through Venus' thick cloud layers and map its surface. Not all the intensification of electromagnetic waves has been done in the invisible areas of the electromagnetic spectrum. Light waves have also been intensified and put to work in laser beams. The first two letters of the word laser stand for light amplification. What a laser does is amplify or increase the intensity of light waves it produces in a very narrow range of selected frequencies. Laser light waves are all in step, without the tendency to spread and lose energy the way normal light does. Reflectors set up on the moon reflect laser light beamed from Earth. This has made it possible for us to constantly monitor and measure the distance between Earth and Moon to an accuracy of a few centimeters. So, electromagnetic waves are used in many ways, from unlocking the secrets of the universe to simply providing us with entertainment. All are part of the electromagnetic spectrum, a continuous arrangement of electromagnetic waves that differ from each other only in wavelength and frequency, which are really only the result of differences in energy.
I love that smooth jazz end, plus some great technology. That was 3/4 inch pneumatic. That excuse me, was being the tape that was being pushed in. Let's see, what do we got? This will run a little over our time, but let's learn about living in the Rocky Mountains. Enjoy.
The Rocky Mountains, rugged peaks, river valleys and rolling hills, and lots of room. 6 states make up this region, 500,000 square miles, with only about 6 million people. The Rockies form the Continental Divide, separating the rivers that flow east and south into the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean from those that flow westward into the Pacific Ocean. The land was first officially explored by Lewis and Clark almost half a century before it became part of the United States. The Mormons came out in search of religious freedom in 1847 and established Salt Lake City. Today it's the capital of Utah and one of the largest of the cities in the Rocky Mountain states. The Mormons founded their community in desert land but turned it green with irrigation. The mountain states today couldn't get along without irrigation. Irrigation is necessary if you want to carry on productive agriculture without much rain. The water for irrigation comes from reservoirs, and the reservoirs, they come from dams. This is Hoover Dam in Nevada, with Lake Mead behind it. Lake Mead is one of the largest man-made lakes in the world. Glen Canyon Dam in northern Arizona is on the Colorado River.
I've been here at Glen Canyon since '65, about a year after the dam was completed. Haven't had any real problems yet. It's doing its job, irrigation, power, flood control, and recreation too. the dam's one of 4 in the Colorado Big Thompson project. We produce more electricity from water power in Arizona than any of the other Rocky Mountain states. About half the electricity generated out here is used for industry. And the water from the whole system of dams irrigates 750,000 acres of farmland.
Irrigation makes sugar beets possible. Sugar beets are one of the most important crops in this region. More than half of the U.S. production of sugar comes from sugar beets grown and processed here. Beans are raised on irrigated lands too. So is alfalfa. And so are potatoes, Idaho potatoes. About 20% of the nation's potatoes are grown and processed in Idaho. But some crops don't need as much water as potatoes. Wheat doesn't. It can be dry farmed. Wheat is the major crop of the region. Milling of the wheat into flour is usually done in Denver, Colorado, where milling is a leading industry. Denver is the largest city in the Rocky Mountain states. It's the major commercial and financial center of the region. It's one of our nation's most important meat handling centers. The importance of the Rocky Mountain states in the meat industry began back in the 1800s. Texas cattlemen drove herds of longhorn cattle into the region. The sheepmen came too. The railroads helped bring in homesteaders. As the cattlemen, sheepmen, and farmers took over the Indians' land, the Indians fought for it. The Indians lost the big battles, although they won some well-known small ones, like the battle near the Little Bighorn River against General Custer. This monument marks Custer's last stand. Today, livestock is a big industry. Most farm income is from livestock. Dairy products are also a big part of farm income. Sheep thrive in drier regions. Most of the wool is sent east to textile centers in Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. Cattle are fattened in feedlots before being shipped to stockyards for slaughter.
Being a federal meat inspector means I check meat, and I check the whole operation for sanitation. I'm sort of carrying on the work of my grandfather. He came out here as a cowboy in the 1890s. He rode herd on cattle, meat on the hoof. I do too, but mine is meat off the hoof. Lots of meat packing work in Denver.
Although Denver is a meat handling center today, it was founded during the Pikes Peak Gold Rush of 1858. The expression Pikes Peak or bust entered our language then. Discoveries of gold and silver attracted many fortune hunters. Mining towns suddenly came into being and just as quickly died. Today, small prospecting for gold and silver is over, but the big mining operations still go on. There's silver in Idaho, copper and gold in Montana, molybdenum and uranium in Colorado. The Rockies are rich in metals. At Bingham Canyon in Utah is North America's largest open-pit copper mine. Smelting of the ores into their metals is a big industry in the Rocky Mountain states.
By the time the copper ore gets to me, most of the waste rock is gone. The idea of smelting is to get rid of the impurities that are left in the copper. We can get copper about 99.9% pure here. About a quarter of the world's copper comes from the U.S. We're the largest copper-producing country in the world. Most U.S. copper comes from around here, Utah and Arizona, more than 1 million tons a year. I sort of grew up in the industry. My dad worked here, and my son's studying metallurgy at the Colorado School of Mines. I expect he'll be a copperman, too.
Materials important in construction are also found in the mountain states. Gypsum is processed in this plant in Nevada. Gypsum is used in making wallboards. The gypsum quarry is nearby. Other building materials like sand and limestone are also found in this region. Mountain forests are another source of construction materials. Sawmills cut millions of trees each year and process them for lumber. But even though more than 10% of all U.S. forest land is in the Rockies, lumbering is not very important here because of high transportation costs. Newfound deposits of oil and natural gas have made these resources the greatest source of income in the Rocky Mountain states. This rig is in an oil field in eastern Montana. Nearby are oil tanks and tanks of natural gas. The new discoveries in the Rocky Mountain states have created refining industries. But something that's been known about for a long time will have an even greater impact on the region.
People usually call this oil shale, but geologists call it marlstone. When you crush the rock and heat it, a material it contains, called kerogen, breaks down into oil, shale oil. We're sitting on a mountain of oil in Colorado. We know where it is. It's all mapped. We just have to reduce the cost of processing it.
Environmentalists worry about what a shale oil industry will do to the landscape. The beauty of the land is one of the main reasons that the Rocky Mountain states attract millions of tourists each year.
Yellowstone Park is under the supervision of the National Park Service. We may not have many people living out here in the Mountain States, but we sure have a lot of things for people to come see. I'll name a few. Shoshone Falls in Idaho. The Grand Tetons. They rise from a level plain at Jackson Hole, Wyoming. The Garden of the Gods in Colorado. Bryce Canyon, Utah. Devil's Tower in Wyoming. There are Indian cliff dwellings at Mesa Verde in Colorado, over 1,000 years old. You can watch a glacier creep down a mountainside at Glacier National Park in Montana, or see skiers come down a lot faster at mountain resorts. You want excitement? There's always the rodeo. Peace and tranquility? That's here too. Being a park ranger really suits me. I like the outdoors, I like working in remote places like this, and I love Yellowstone Park. Yellowstone is the oldest and the biggest of our national parks, and it's got a lot of things to see, like the geysers and hot springs. Animals just roam around free. They sort of know they're safe here. Tourists really love the snow bus. Part of my job is working with tourists, being a guide or just giving advice. But most of the time, I'm on my own in this fantastic wilderness. I've been here 2 years, and I still haven't gotten over these truly magnificent works of nature.
Works of man also attract tourists to the mountain states. Tourism is a big source of income here. One problem in the region is high transportation costs. And there are other problems. More irrigation is needed in the arid land. Mineral resources lie undeveloped under the mountains and deserts. The reason shows up in population signs. Many small towns, and not many big ones, mean there aren't enough people to do the work. But things are changing. New roads like the Lewis and Clark Highway are providing better trade routes. Huge irrigation projects are being built. Industries are diversifying. The lumber industry is beginning to manufacture wooden products. The availability of jobs with the government and government-related activities has brought many people out here. And the Rocky Mountain states have encouraged new industries, which have attracted permanent residents. It's a big area with big opportunities. This region of changing frontier lands.
Yeah. All right. You know, some of these films were a little bit more low-key than other films we've shown, but that's okay. We learned a lot. If you're in the Triangle of North Carolina area, that would be Durham, Raleigh, Chapel Hill. I'm doing a screening tonight at Lump Gallery, which is in downtown Raleigh, starting at 7 o'clock. And we'll be showing films related to the theme of anatomy of the adult tantrum. And so, yeah, I hope to see you out there. If not, we'll do more shows, and as things kind of start opening back up again, you know, maybe we'll go on tour and go to your town, your city, and I get to meet you in person, and you get to listen to the hum, the purr of the 16mm projector in person. But thanks for tuning in today, and we'll be back again tomorrow. As always, Rewind 919. That happens to be the area code where we are. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and we will see you soon. Take care.